You already saw me. I wasn't even playing with my phone.
Oh my god.
Recut it. Recut it. Welcome, everyone, to the latest installment of the Phoenix Rising podcast. I am here to my right, Gray CLT Box Turtle. To his right, Blake CLT Invictus. Coming around the horn to CLT Pathfinder, also known as CJ. I am Jason, also known as CLT Swish. And let's just dive right into it, right? Second podcast.
Second iteration of the Phoenix Rising.
2 times.
Phoenix Rising, yeah.
Big moves.
I feel the sun is coming upon us, up over the horizon.
This coffee is killer.
I've had like 4 cups of coffee
roast.
today.
So CJ can't form sentences now.
That's right. Okay, so
First on the docket.
now that we've done our introductions, we were going to go to mailbox questions next. But we realized the mailbox questions is empty right now, so we're gonna. If you
Comment below, get in Discord, just send us what you want to hear us talk about.
yeah, so if you have any questions you want to hear about anything within the organization or within the esports world, we're happy to discuss and chat. Especially if you're in Charlotte. If you're in Charlotte and you want to hear more about esports scenes or things like that, would love to hear those questions.
Even if there's things that you just never heard anybody else talk about, let us talk about it for you.
Like how Minecraft isn't an esport.
Yeah, well, that was your idea.
Yeah, well,
It is.
it's because it isn't. Okay.
You got heated.
He's living in the past.
The one comment
Moving
on
on.
our last podcast
Was-
said it's an esport. Basically, don't at me.
Yeah, I didn't.
Something
At,
like
I
that.
didn't at them either.
Sounds like you got to fight somebody.
I mean, I responded and agreed to him.
Yes.
Agreed with him. To him.
We have a busy month. It's still going, right?
Yeah.
So
A lot going on with
last
Phoenix.
weekend we were at Carolina Game Summit, which is actually where we all met originally.
Yes.
That is, yeah.
A year.
Where you were part of that hype video that I took
That's right.
when Sinatra clutched the 1v2.
That's right.
Just a little backstory. Blake and I showed up to Carolina Game Summit in Goldsboro with Josh, our founder and part owner, and Ty, our general manager. I'm disappointed he wasn't there this year.
Same.
Chinese New Year.
You suck, Ty.
Wait, what?
He had
That was his excuse
last
for
year.
leaving.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
was
had to
it?
leave early last year, and he was like, "Sorry guys, Chinese New Year."
It's almost why I didn't make it down for Media Day as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Chinese New
He
Year.
must actually do something for Chinese New Year. Chinese New Year is actually really dope.
He's
Mm-hmm.
Vietnamese. It makes sense.
So, CJ was part of the Army Call of Duty team. I don't know what you want to technically be
Sure, that's fine.
affiliated with.
I don't even remember what we called ourselves, but those were all Army guys on
Yeah.
the Army Call of Duty
Yeah.
team at one point. It was
That
like the
whole
C
s-
team, though, so we weren't like the best. Or
But that whole
worst.
squad was a cool bunch
Clearly.
of guys. We met Lewis, Aerodex,
Yeah. Yep.
Charles,
Yep.
Sinatra. Shout out to those 2 guys. Love you, miss you. Bye.
He's in
Brian,
Afghanistan right now.
OG Wavy, I think is his name.
Wavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wavy, yeah.
I haven't talked to Wavy in forever. I think he's in Hawaii now. But yeah.
Must
He
be
has
nice.
a fitness page with like 20,000 followers on it. Something like that.
Huh. Interesting.
It's like
I
good
don't
for
know.
him.
He's pretty fit.
So
Yeah,
stay
makes
safe, Charles, out there in Afghanistan. We're thinking
Ifkin.
about you.
Yes.
And that's where we met CJ.
Yes.
He was part of that really hype moment that Blake was alluding to earlier.
You should drop the
Sinatra.
video.
I can drop
some
the
point.
video.
Yeah.
So check out
Done.
this hype video. All right, that was wild.
crazy.
Sinatra clutched that 2v1. Everyone lost their minds. The whole venue just turned and looked at us.
Video creds.
And CLT was really took off from there. CJ came on board. So did Sinatra and Aerodex in some capacities. They've helped us out here and there.
Yeah, at events, different
Yep.
stuff. But this past weekend was the year anniversary. So it was almost exactly the year anniversary because last year my birthday was February 2nd, which was the day of CGS. And this year CGS was the 1st. So
Well, like how soon
Yeah.
after that did you talk to Josh and like say, hey, I'm interested?
it probably took like a month and a half.
Okay.
We were like, I was trying to feel out what Josh's goals were and what my
Right.
goals were and if we kind of aligned. And then figuring out like what we want to do next. And obviously we've branched into like 8 different things now that we do.
Well, that's awesome. Obviously, you made a great
Yeah.
decision, and so your official 1 year will be coming up soon. You can.
It's
you can
crazy to
celebrate.
think the amount of things that have happened in 1 year is pretty wild.
It was crazy. Josh was on the phone with me and Blake. We were on our way up to Pennsylvania to go to our grandfather's funeral. We're literally on a drive and we get a call from Josh. He's talking about the My Computer Career deal.
Oh yeah.
We were getting hyped. Blake and I are sitting at home randomly emailing companies, fishing for sponsorships, and just spreading the word. And a year later, it's pretty happy with where we come.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Imagine 5 years. Just in 1 year, we've accomplished so much.
I know, right?
5
Because
is going to be wild.
sometimes I get so demoralized because I'm like, it's all not happening like
Yeah.
as quickly as I want it to. But then like I look back in moments like this where I'm like, wow, a year ago, where were we? And it's so
Yeah.
different
Mhm.
to where it is. But we were at CGS.
Yes.
We ran some panels. That was kind of fun. So I was running like 8 to, I don't know, it was a lot of panels.
We really didn't get to hear those, unfortunately. They were on the screen, but
Yeah.
we didn't know
the
what was
audio
going on.
messed up the stream for the Overwatch and Rocket League. They had
I
to turn
see.
the audio off for
Yeah,
your
yeah.
guys' panels.
Yeah, so we did a couple panels. That was fun. How was the tournament side of things? Obviously, I wasn't in there much.
Yeah, I mean, we mainly did Halo 5,
Oh, really?
which, hate to say it, basically a dead game, as
Yeah.
we all know.
Sure.
The free-for-all actually turned out pretty great. 16 people showed up.
What?
But
I didn't know
then
that.
The 4v4, 1.5 teams showed up. So,
One and a half.
so
And
there
then
was no tournament.
Were you
Yeah.
part of
they-
half a team?
They dissolved, which Blake and I weren't hurt at all by.
I mean, we got a chance to take down our stations early, though.
yeah.
We got a
We got a head
Head start
start
on that.
Yeah.
But no, I was actually really pleased and very surprised by the free for all. Thought
Mhm.
more people would put more effort into the 4v4, but that's also looking at it from my perspective. I'd rather
Yeah.
play arena, get a squad of 4, and
Yeah.
jump in. And FFA community is a thing. People love it. So
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do for
Um,
the HDL. It's almost exclusively FFA stuff.
right,
They don't even run 8s. They're just like, hey, let's get 10 people
Really?
in free for all. Yeah,
there's like
Actually
FFA
didn't know that.
communities. There is a thriving SWAT community.
it's
in
massive.
Halo.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Huh.
There are a
They-
lot of H5 streamers that like make their claim to fame like off of SWAT.
Yep.
Huh.
Don't know why.
guess-
SWAT's trash, but
I guess if you hit
Don't
your
at me.
if you hit your first shot, then it's not trash,
I
is
like
it, Blake?
I like
Yeah.
SWAT. I love SWAT.
SWAT's about camping a corner, hard scoping the corner, and waiting until someone turns that corner. That's all it
We
is.
are heading down a different rabbit
Anyway.
trail with that one.
Tune into my stream if you want to hear me rant about that.
But see, I really like CGS because it's not designed to be super competitive, right? It's
Yeah.
designed to get people playing in a tournament that have never touched a tournament before in their life, and they kind of just show up to play games, and it's super casual, and the
Mhm.
barrier to entry is super low, and I love the fact that it's like it's kind of the step below of like what I want to be at times, but I see the need for it because somebody has to introduce people to games, and that's one of the reasons that CGS has like a place in the world is because I wouldn't have met you guys, and that relationship would have never happened if I didn't show up just to kind of play. And I mean, you don't win anything, like it's basically
Red
Or vice
Bull-
versa. For us, it was an extremely difficult day.
yeah.
I mean, we were on the floor
You're talking about
for
the first time around?
the first
Yeah.
time for 14, 16 plus hours. Didn't get to eat. Went to the bathroom,
One bathroom
one
break.
time.
Yep.
Drove home that night, leaving the venue at 1, 2 a.m. and driving. But obviously worth it looking back.
Yeah.
Blake and I stayed out there. Josh got to run the booth, and Ty was kind of floating. And but no, like you said, there's a blend of a bunch of stuff there. There's some competitive stuff. Guys are trying.
Yeah.
You got some main stage. You had Rocket League, Overwatch up there. It was cool. Fortnite on PC. So people are taking it seriously.
Yeah.
Then you got stations that are open, and kids are just walking up and free playing. Blake
Playing.
and I free played some Halo 5 and Apex. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's a mini Dreamhack, basically.
essentially
Much
Some
smaller
ways.
version,
a
but still
much
kind of the
smaller
same concept.
mini DreamHack. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, and that's like, I think the vision that Mike has for that over there is just to grow it to where there's just more stuff on it every time,
Mhm.
and just more things going on. And I think that's like how DreamHack started, though. You know what I mean? It had to have been something like that where it's just like, hey,
Yeah.
we're just gamers who want to hang out, and then the whole bring your computer thing happened and all the other stuff, and then we
Yep.
started getting deals with other sponsors.
BYOC stuff is awesome though. That's
It's-
how you get a lot of people.
It's
doing that.
crazy
Oh, yeah.
because I don't want to bring my stuff everywhere. Like I almost
Right.
revolt against the idea of it. How do you feel about it, Gray?
What BYOCs?
Yeah.
I mean, I've only had a PC for like a month now, but I can tell you that like if something were to come up and it was either play on like if I was playing in a tournament or playing in like an open play thing, and they were like, hey, you can either bring your own stuff and use your equipment in your setup, or you can use the stuff that we just have available for everybody. I'm probably going to bring my own stuff.
Even like you have to unconnect
So much
everything. You have to bring all your cables.
Well, that's
you have
just
to pack it up so it's safe.
We're
Right,
finding
but-
out who's dedicated here.
But
you
that's
know,
just- I
clearly
guess
the
that's
table
true.
is two and two here.
But that's just the difference between like PC and console. Because like if you play like, Halo 5 tournaments that the three of us have entered in, right? Or like COD tournaments that you've entered in.
Yeah.
Like you bring your own controller and you bring your own headset,
Yeah.
don't you? Right. But there's no discrepancy between one person's.
But I don't bring my monitor and my PlayStation though.
Right.
He was
because
talking
you-
about console.
But you're operating under the assumption that all PlayStations are the same, which they are, and your monitor is going to be up to par. So like somebody that brings their own setup, they're probably not bringing their monitor. Like I probably wouldn't bring my monitor, but I would definitely bring my PC because not all PCs are the same. If you were accustomed to your own setup.
Yeah. I mean, I just for me the concept of like unconnecting everything in my computer and resetting it all up and then being like, what if something breaks on the way? Like nobody's gonna just pay me back for that. Like that's on me kind of thing. I think that I would rather go to a tournament and play in a crappier system that I didn't necessarily trust as much than showing up and bringing my own stuff.
See, that's where my I guess conflict comes into play because
Yeah.
I'm particular about my tech,
Right.
and my stuff, and I don't want damage to occur and stuff like that. But then I've been the victim of those crappy setups.
Yep.
And CGS there were connection issues with the internet while we were there. Huge frame drops and lag spikes playing Halo 5 and Apex that cost us, even when we were just like, playing
Free
around,
play,
it cost
yep.
us some games. And I don't want that to happen in a tournament. I want perfect connection. I want perfect clarity and frame rate. And I guess I would have to decide what's worth it. Prize pool, magnitude of the event I'm going to, might be worth it to take that risk and bring my setup to ensure that I'm putting my best
Yeah.
performance forward, because that's a combination of myself and my tech.
Yeah.
And so I would just have to do that pros and cons list.
I think that's a very specific scenario for a hardcore tournament, though. Like, that's definitely, like, if there's money on the line. What if it's
Yeah.
a free tournament for fun with the boys?
Oh yeah.
I'm not
care.
bringing
Yeah, I'm
anything
not
for a
bringing
free tournament.
anything.
No.
Yeah.
But then all the big tournaments have their own setups anyway, so there isn't a bring your own.
Exactly, right? So, like,
So-
a bigger
that-
tournament.
That goes back to Gray console, though. I think we're talking about BYOC specifically.
Which is bring your own computer,
Right.
not console.
But like,
But like CS:GO tournaments, like, because that's on PC, right? Because obviously HCS, like, Call of Duty, majority that's going to be on PlayStation or Xbox or whatever, right? And there's no discrepancy between one Xbox versus another Xbox,
Yeah.
so long as you're on the same level, like Xbox One X against Xbox One X, right?
Yeah.
But like if you're on PC and you're playing like a CS:GO tournament, like on a main stage for like Splice or something, like those PCs are like state of the art. Like that's going to be up to par with what you use at your own house. And so like there's no real discrepancy there. But something that's not Dreamhack, that's not like, a main stage like CS:GO tournament, like a CGS, like no offense to CGS, but they're not like, $500,000 prize pool
Sure.
Yeah.
CS:GO tournaments.
That's not what he wants to
Right.
be. So, yeah.
They're not gonna have necessarily the most state of the art computers with GPUs and CPUs and frame rates and everything available. So it makes sense that somebody would want to bring their own stuff to give themselves that extra edge.
Yeah.
Or give themselves the best possible advantage towards success.
Sure, if you're gonna, once again, but I'm trying to draw the line between like if it's competitive or if it's casual, right? So like, I think there's very distinct like place for both of those things, and you approach them both very differently.
Of course.
I guess it depends.
Yeah, if it's casual, I'm not bringing my own.
what level of tournaments are going to be BYOC?
That's the
you
point
know?
I was making.
Well,
is
yeah, it's
every
because-
top level tournament's going to have its own equipment.
Yeah,
There's
like
no big level tournaments where you bring your own
yeah,
computer.
CS:GO is a huge title.
Yeah.
Halo's been big for years, and like you said, they're going to have those
Mm-hmm.
hopefully optimum performance
Those
setups
benchmarks
there, right? And so,
hopefully.
yeah, I mean,
Like how many times have we seen that get messed up over the years?
but Halo has had a couple of bad last years in terms of production
Yeah.
and technical issues, and
Sure.
it pushes tournaments late, and players get frustrated. I think that's kind of what's kind of pushing things towards PC, because I don't know
Yeah.
if that happens as often, because we're kind of seeing consoles like get a little buggy at times.
I don't think they'll go anywhere though. It's just because like
No.
there's a market for it. It's just it's
Sure.
a cheaper barrier to entry market
for now.
For now,
We
that's
don't know
right.
what the
You could buy Google Stadia too.
we don't know what the
When's that supposed to come out?
It's already
It's
out.
been out. For
It's
months.
out?
It's
been out for
terrible.
months,
Man,
yeah.
I missed that.
Their
Yeah.
release was shaky. They
At best.
yeah. I mean, it's improved for, like patches and things like that, but a lot of it's latency and lag issues. Like because everything's cloud based, like it's so reliant on internet, and
Mhm.
like internet's not to the point unless you're running like 100% fiber optic, and like you're not direct lining your Stadia, right? Like it runs through most of the time Wi-Fi, and like it's just such an unreliable medium that I mean, there's so many barriers that they just can't get around.
It'd be worthless for us with the kind of router we have.
Yeah, basically. But
Lol.
it's a wonderful concept, and I think as technology improves, Stadia will improve with it, which
Sure.
is I think is kind of what their goal
That's fair.
was like, hey, 5G's coming, fiber's coming, like all this stuff like is going to be more universally accepted by different carriers and you know ISPs or whatever. But I mean, as that stuff improves, so will Stadia. But I mean, timing is everything, so they may have just released too early. I don't know.
do we wrap up the CGS?
Yeah.
I will say, comparing from a year ago, the hotel was
Did you guys stay in a
Unbelievable.
hotel
yes.
last year?
No, not last
No,
year.
no.
You're thinking playthrough. The hotel we stayed at.
No,
there.
I'm just saying it like
Uh,
CGS. We drove down Saturday morning and
Yeah.
drove back Saturday night to be
Yeah,
able to
that
have a
would've
place to
hurt.
stay Friday night.
Yeah.
that was
would've-
great.
Leaving the venue at 2 a.m, thinking about a drive.
Yeah.
We had to work the next day too. I think
Yeah,
It's like 2.5
we were
hours,
we were
right?
at Target at the time.
3.5 to 4. So that Hampton Inn.
Yikes!
Thank
Hampton
you, Michael,
Inn.
CJ, getting us set up with
Yeah.
that.
It
That
a
was
con-
super
It was a
nice.
conversation and it worked out well, so I'm glad.
I think that helps performance of staff too. Not
Oh,
to
yeah.
try and extend the conversation, but like
Yeah.
that builds our morale, right? It's like, man, we can get down day before. We can actually like sleep.
Get established
Get
before
established.
you actually grind that tournament.
Oh,
on
I also
Saturday.
feel like this CGS was a lot less chaotic than the last.
yeah, I
Yeah,
got that vibe
like,
too.
It's
I
still
think there were less people and less vendors
could be.
there.
It
really
was
do.
about the same
Yeah.
size actually for the people, but yes, it definitely. I just think there were less issues overall. I think it was better. Like there were obviously still some issues, but like I just think it was better. But
I didn't get to see Call of Duty. Since we were on
Yeah.
Halo. I don't know what happened
the
over there.
updates were weird. Call of Duty's a hard game to run. Okay, let's talk about esports facilities and practice facilities and compounds
Gaming houses.
and gaming houses. So there's several that exist right now. I know Complexity Gaming has one in Dallas that's right across the street in the Dallas Star in Frisco. 100 Thieves just dropped theirs. There's got Liquid I know has one, but actually I haven't seen the plans for it. Dignitas just announced that they're going to make one in Las Vegas, and the floor plans for that one are pretty dope. And then I know Misfits Gaming is also building one in Florida, North Fort Lauderdale. But so a lot of them are just like, for the audience especially, they normally build like a podcast space like this, and then they have like a couple of studios for like streamers to be able to create content, and then like an area for the players to be able to play. And I think that the coolest one is definitely Complexity, and the fact that they do lighting and noise based off of like they can recreate like being at an event
Yeah.
with crowd noises and those
create
kind of things.
Major land main stage.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So I
That's
just
pretty crazy. I didn't know
atmosphere.
that.
yeah. So what do you guys think about what? Do you think there's a piece like missing from the puzzle that they just aren't building right now, or do you think it's like this is awesome and I think it's everything it should be? Or
I think it's kind of like it in its infancy with
yeah.
the norm for a major, like a tier 1 esports or even tier 2.
Well, I mean, not too long ago they were in gaming houses, right?
Right.
So like they're just
they weren't
kinda
always the
upgrading that.
nicest houses.
Oh, no.
They just made it work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But where esports is moving into an era of like it's commonplace for a city to have an org franchise there or a big org to take off somewhere. And I think we'll see facilities pop up as esports becomes a more supported idea in general, you know, because there's still a large majority of the population, mainly like our parents, that, you know, still stigmatize it. And so it's not getting, I don't think it's reaching its full potential yet. So we're starting to see these major orgs like plant huge warehouse, airplane hangar style renovated
Yeah.
facilities. And I'm all for it.
An
But I-
airplane
I-
hangar would be dope.
And then you just section it off and
Yeah.
tech it out, and you could have some rec space so the players can loosen up and then they can go into their room and grind.
Yeah.
So
do you think
I
these
think it's awesome.
facilities are going to kill the gaming house idea? Like, do you think the houses will start to dwindle off?
Well, that's
and
just
then
as
the
more
facility
money
becomes-
pours into esports in general. So they'll
Yeah.
be able to build that sort of thing instead of like, hey, let's use our winnings or a little bit of sponsorship to try and rent a house, you know.
But I also see the benefit of a house in terms of that's everyday life there. You know, if you're going to a facility to do your content and stuff, that's like showing up to work every day. You wake up in the morning at your place and then go to work. Whereas the house is more personable and you see the daily life of the content creators.
Yeah.
So I'm torn between the two, but I'm just bringing up
I mean, you can look at separating,
for
almost like
houses.
separating your home life from your work life
yeah,
and the positives of that, and just as normal citizens like we are,
yeah,
you want to kind of keep those separate in a lot of instances. So I guess the players need to step away. Like, let's say there's team turmoil and some teammates are butting heads, like Scump and Nade Shot, some back in the day. They were staying in the same house though, right? And if there was a facility, they could just go home, cool off, reassess, and then show back up. And it's like, all right, it's work time, and hey, things might turn out different that way.
yeah.
I like the facility model.
I think I like the facility as well.
I don't think I see it.
Gaming. I mean, I think it's just different levels. I think they can both exist at the same time. Like, I don't think there's any world in which, like, all right, well, it's either facility or nothing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just different levels of the same thing. Like, if an org doesn't have the money to like build a Pablo Escobar-esque compound for the sake of gaming, like, then like renting a house and like, you know, adding all the equipment and making sure there's fiber lines run to it, like that's not a bad thing. Like, it's just different. It's just a different way to do the same thing, just at different levels. Like, I think ideally the end goal would be like a well thought out, well organized facility, like the same way you have like gyms or like what this is, or like, you know, like Olympic like pools where Olympic swimmers go and train, or like Olympic, you know, skate parks where like Olympic skaters go and train, right? Like, it's the same kind of thing as like that, like professional gamers where professional gamers go and play. And I think that should be the end goal, because that is a dedicated space, as opposed to where you're not having to mix living and gaming, right? But I think if you are in a position where the only thing you can afford is a gaming house, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's just different levels, different ways to do the same thing.
That makes sense.
I think you get a lot of raw moments from that gaming house, right? Like, there's always a prank war. It always happens. If you get it on film, it's like it goes down in infamy forever, right? And it's a great memory. And it's like there is definitely that like dorm vibe, you know, like
Right.
I know that like living in the dorm is something that everyone experiences if they go to college, you know, and I think that for me, that changed a lot of my perspective, and in creating like a facility isn't necessarily like dorm life, right? It's very different than living with those people and being as close to them as you are because of that. And I think some of the genuineness and the authenticity gets lost in some of the, you know, as you polish things, it makes them a little bit prettier, and you know, you lose some of the genuineness of it because it feels a little bit, you know, scripted,
less real.
Yeah. So like that's my biggest complaint, I think. But like,
yeah, that's what I was getting at too with the whole house versus facility. I don't know. You get more like real life content in the house. It's just like you see like the pranks, you see the 100 Thieves video
the
when
Chipotle
we were watching
runs.
Chipotle runs, when you see they were on their knees or whatever chugging the Smirnoffs or whatever.
Yeah.
The 100 Thieves house.
Oh,
It's
so
just like
you
you see
iced at the 100 Thieves house?
Yeah.
Yeah, you see little things like that.
Sucks to
I mean,
suck.
sure they could do that at the facility, but I just don't think you'll see as much as that there, because it's like, here's my workstation. This is where I'm going to be doing most of my stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas I live in this house, so I'm all over the house doing a bunch of different things, which there's always someone filming it.
Yeah.
So,
I think that makes it interesting though, because it'd be like a person to person sort of preference.
Yeah.
Because I see it as like the gaming house seems nice, and for content, that sort of day-to-day stuff would be good. I get it, but I personally don't feel like I'd want to be a part of that. If I was a professional gamer, I would be like, I'd be locked in. And if I go to a facility and I know I'm staying there for 12 to 15 hours, and like that's my zone, right? And it's clean, and it's, you know, it's a tightly run ship in there, and you know,
It's like a flow state.
yeah. And so I would keep that sort of like loosey goosey, like chill with the bros stuff in a separate space for me. But that's just how I'm wired, I guess.
that makes sense.
You know.
I also know that like the gaming houses are like now a breeding ground for a lot of legal battles, right? That's like kind of what FaZe is in trouble for, and this has started because of their gaming house and what they've done. And it's like older people that are above 21 taking care of people that are under 21 because of where they are in life and how these people interact with each other. And it's just there's a lot of risk for the organization from a medical standpoint, from a contractual standpoint. So there's that to keep in mind too. So I think the model of the gaming house will disappear because of that. But I totally think that it's so cool to live in a gaming house. And I'm very different than you in the fact that like I would love a community around me all the time. I had a gaming house in college. It was one of the things, like, I found the people that were gamers around me, and we had 5 dudes in a house, and we'd play video games all day long every day. You know, like, I hung out, and we had the stupid things.
I would never get anything done.
Yeah, and it's very much like that. You don't get anything done because it's just you're having fun all the time, and you're always hanging out with them. And, like, you fight because of that constantly, right?
I'd be mad at my teammates. Like, I'm practicing. Hello. And then, you know, people are doing whatever.
Oh, you can
and
drop 30 kills, but you can't do the dishes?
Yeah.
Yeah, just like
that's what happens in our gaming apartment.
Pretty much.
No one does dishes there, so.
Pretty much.
Yeah, nobody
I think it's person to person, but I think you're right.
Yeah, it's just so like I think the gaming house model will disappear just because of legal stuff, which is you know. But I also think it is very like person to person, and it doesn't mean that you can't be like roommates with one of the homies or whatever.
Yeah,
and I really also like the Chicago Huntsmen are doing this, and like they're the Chicago Huntsmen, right? None of them live in Chicago. 4 of them live in Dallas, and 1 lives in LA, right? And they don't go to a practice facility; they just practice from their homes every day at a certain time. So it's like gaming is still very much like you can play online. You don't necessarily have to be there at times. Now, if you are together, that's better for like a content perspective to be able to make like videos or whatever, but you still like don't have to be there, and it kind of works either way, you know?
And almost like creating your LAN environment that you'd be at tournament.
Sure, yeah. But I think the Huntsmen are 2-0 in the CDL right now, and they're doing it for online, and they're not necessarily together, and it just works for them. So it doesn't. I think there's going to be proven models in all 3 of these areas. You know, I think that's the truth. So
let us know what you think.
Yeah. Let us
about
know what
facilities,
you think
gaming houses,
gaming
and the like.
Facilities, what they look like, what they should like, what you think they could include. I also think, and I just do a quick caveat, I think that there's going to be a place in esports for VR coming in the next 10 to 15 years here. There's this game. Or less. Yeah, it could be faster. But I really think that that's going to be something that's going to be included underneath the esports genre, and it's not going to be like its own genre. So I think that including the capabilities to doing some of those things, being able to practice your VR game requires a little bit more space, especially depending on the game and what it looks like. Like, have you heard of Hodo?
Heard of it.
Hodo, it's like dodgeball. It's like VR dodgeball.
You showed me that.
I did.
That thing is crazy.
Yeah, so like that takes up like 800 square feet, which is fine, and you can put that in a lot of different places, but it also needs the tech, right? So who's planning on picking up a Hodo team when it pops off, or if it pops off, kind of thing? And what's the next version of Hodo that'll come out? Because when I talk to the Hodo folks, they're like, hey, we're making, a league and we want 32 teams to join. They're basically franchising Hodo. So it's like, who's going to buy into the franchise, It's and how you're going to practice the game. What does that look like? So
if we're starting a team, I'll play.
It's only $40,000 to get buy-in, which is actually pretty cheap.
I was about to say that's really cheap.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap to buy into it. But something cool that I think that they could include, that maybe they're thinking of it, maybe they're not, I don't know, but I think that's something that could exist in the future that they should prepare for. Cool. So next topic that we have on here is different careers in esports, and I guess how to prepare yourself, and how to like if you're 14 years old right now and you're watching this, how could you prepare yourself in order to get a career, and what kind of careers exist?
And what degree paths people can pursue as well.
Right?
In that.
Yeah. I think that it's kind of like, the sports marketing degree in a lot of ways. Like, what is a sports marketing degree? And I think that a sports marketing degree helps you, like, get involved in maybe the NBA or the NFL or the,
get your foot
MLB.
in the door.
Yeah, and it's like, but you could have a million different jobs in there. It could be, selling tickets for the event, or managing the sponsors at the event, or finding new sponsors for the event, or managing players, being a coach, all of those kind of pieces. And I think all of those exist in esports too. But, like, I guess we could start it like this. if you could have one career in esports, what would it be?
I actually told this to Blake either, was it today or yesterday? And I even told my wife about it, about kind of like where it zeroed in for me. And it's going to be tough to kind of find that path to get there because I think it'll take some schooling possibly and some certifications and stuff.
Yeah.
But I've become recently fascinated with the game developer side.
Yeah.
And not even just because of what Apex has been doing, but I think that's sort of like honed it in for me with watching their dev streams and watching their content that they've been releasing on Twitter and seeing these little shorts. I know we've joked about lore before, and we'll get into Apex Season 4 stuff, I guess, in a little bit. But watching what they're doing, the story they're creating, and how it could or could not set up a legend that gets released in a later season.
Sure.
Or, you know, it just creates another world, essentially. And I think Apex is on the precipice of creating so much more content. Like, they could do a movie of this. They could do a short series because of what they're doing now and what those developers are doing behind the scenes at EA. And I think for me, my degree is in health communications, which had me pinned to be like an HR manager or a patient advocate at a hospital. So if that took more schooling for me, I am totally open to that.
Yeah.
If the time and the funds are there. But for me, my answer is right now would be game developer if I knew that I could pursue it and sit there and just like either create a story or help create competitive settings, right? Because that's what they talk about on their dev streams and what they release on their Twitter and stuff. And then that's just been a very recent thing for me that I don't think I knew that I was interested in.
In 2019, the Philadelphia Fusion, the Overwatch team, they put up a job listing for a meme specialist.
Dude, really?
Paid $17 an hour.
Dude.
No way.
Their whole job was creating and developing memes. That was it. That was it. Figuring out what memes fit best on what platforms, like what memes work best on Reddit versus Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. Paid $17 an hour.
2019/2020.
But I mean, in a lot of like esports is interesting because like obviously like the sports is the second part of that word, right? A lot of the industry very much mirrors like, you know, professional like, you know, spectator sports. Like NASCAR, football, baseball, basketball, like, you know, hockey, like it's very, very similar. And like the openings and the types of things that people do, like outside of just being like a player or like a member of like the team or a GM or like a coach, like outside of those jobs, which obviously we can recognize that even outside of esports, just in generic sports, those are highly selective jobs. You have to be the best of the best at what you do in order to grant access into one of those positions, whether it's coach, player, GM, any of that, right? Highly, highly selective. But like, you know, there's all types of ways in which like communications degrees blend over into that. Business degrees blend over into that. Broadcasting, like sports management, like all these different things that you can absolutely mirror in the esports industry. Like the crossover is like, you know, pretty much like it's not hard. You know what I mean? Like if you know how to, if your communication degree is in like specifically to do with like sports management, right? Like it would not be difficult to find how esports you'd use the exact same knowledge and skill set. Like the training wouldn't be like a big far-fetched idea to be able to transfer over from like, you know, being communications director for like, you know, the Carolina Panthers to Charlotte Phoenix. Like it's the same thing. Like the same business model, you know what I mean? But where I think esports is interesting is that you also can blend in the tech side of things. Whereas football now, like, did you guys see what the Ravens did this one year at one of their home games where they did the augmented reality where the big giant Raven hologram was like floating through? Like that's brand new. But like in esports, like in that type of environment where technology already has such a huge presence, they could have done that like 5 years ago, at like a big Halo event or like a League of Legends event.
There's a big thing at League of Legends, right? The Dragon or whatever.
Exactly. Way before football even did that.
Yeah.
So that's where I think esports has the advantage, especially for people that are like entering into the tech world and like IT, tech solutions, systems, any of that database management. Like having that, especially the way technology is growing, is going to give people an edge in the esports industry, at least with finding a job.
I think that's really smart. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Because other sports don't have that, you know?
What would your dream job
My
be?
dream job?
Yeah, what do you want to do in esports?
Gosh. I don't know. What a question. I mean, I want to say game dev, but I feel like that's...
Dude, that's if there's anything like that controls everything, it's the game devs, right? Like if you create the game with the IP, you can pretty much do whatever you want, and we've seen that multiple times. So it's
I also don't want to be the one to create the bad game either, because if something's wrong with the game, who's the first person that people yell at?
oh yeah,
The devs.
Exactly.
Well, look at
And-
what EA has done back to back with Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
There was all the
Yeah.
arguments and backlash of the microtransactions and the loot boxes. Then they flipped that back with Apex, a surprise drop. And so they've kind of...
Right, but that's all still microtransactions. However, I would argue that that's not the game dev's fault, because the game dev, you're just
Sure.
responsible for the way the game looks, the way the game plays, what the game's about, right? Mechanics, story, lore, art style, like all that's game development. The monetization comes from the business side of things. It's like, cool, like this game Overwatch, I like the art style, I like the way it looks, I
Yeah,
like the
that's
way it
true.
plays, team-based shooters, all that's fine. How is it going to make money? That's not the devs. The devs did not go to school or sign up for what they do to figure out like how a game makes money. They did it because they love games. They want to make a
But who do
game.
people point to? Because
The
people
devs,
aren't
of
thinking
course.
that.
Of course.
So
Of
you were
course.
talking about who takes the blame there.
Right. It's always the devs.
Yeah.
It's always the devs.
People don't do their homework.
Right. So I don't know if I would want that
Pressure.
pressure, but I just don't think I wouldn't say pressure, but just the responsibility. Because like if people aren't able to discern between what my job actually is and what I have control over, then, but I would say, yeah, I mean game dev. That's the obvious answer, right? Like
The risk versus
you're
reward
allowed to
discrepancy.
be you're allowed to be like the same. It's cool.
yeah, but like what else would you want to do besides make the freaking game? Like that's the best part.
The risk versus reward discrepancy is very high.
If I had one dream job for me, unless you want to go first, Blake, I'll let you go.
I can go.
Go for it.
I want to start with arguing their point, and I talked with you about this, Jason. Game dev would be cool, but I don't know if I would want to do that because I feel like that ruins the surprise for me. If I'm the one creating the game, and then it's like I really enjoy when a new game drops, and it's like, you know, haven't heard anything about it. It drops, like, surprise. What do I expect from this game? You learn the game as you play it more and more.
Sure.
So it
You
sounds
don't-
like
you
you want
don't
to be
have-
in the marketing /
You don't-
comp scene side of things when you
Yeah.
get the final product and you
So
help
you don't
push it.
have that surprise aspect of a new game when you're developing it, you know? So sure, it's cool to be like, oh man, do these people love this game? Like, it's cool to see the reactions to it, but I think that would ruin it for me because it's like, I can't fully appreciate this game because I'm the one that made it. So to me, it's obviously good because it came from my mind, but I don't know what everyone else thinks. So the game dev thing, wouldn't necessarily want that.
You could still play other
Um,
people's games.
That's true, but
I'd want the
it's-
clout for dropping something dope.
Clout chaser over here.
no,
It's more of watching the appreciation of the community with your creation.
to me, it's the content creator. I mean,
Oh, you
I've
wanna
always
be
been
a content creator.
fascinated with content creation. Granted, I could do a better job at it. Life's busy, no excuses though. But I don't know.
Hex.
That's what got Hex. That's what got me into esports in general though.
Yeah.
When Twitch started taking off, and then it was just like, what? Like, I can watch this person that's now famous because of video games. I can watch them playing these games. I can talk with them while they're playing it. And then if they're not live, I can watch them on YouTube for whatever I miss. Like, it connects the general fan base to the pros or the content creators or whoever is playing the games that's really good at it. So that's like, you know, if you're a fan of basketball and you can get connected to LeBron James when he's practicing basketball or something. I don't know, the whole connection between those two. I just love the content creation side of things.
I think
That's what got me into it.
For us, it was even YouTube before that, catching
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
Halo 3 MLG events and watching the recaps and Puckett's top 10.
Yeah.
And then, but it's what you alluded to. The live streaming has created this whole new experience for the average viewer. Instead of you crashing on your couch on your computer just watching
Mhm.
old videos, you're like interactive.
Yeah.
I used to have the typical dream of, I want to be a pro Halo player. That's all I want to do. But then when I realized the grind, unrealistic,
for us.
yes, but like the grind that goes into that, like, sure, it's still probably amazing to do, but it's like there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that you don't see, that the work these guys put in to get to where they are.
Sure.
So,
They just play the game all day long.
yeah,
That's how they
So when I realized that there's a lot more that goes into being a pro player, I was like, you know what? Content creation is so cool. Like that's a dream job.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Interesting.
Your turn.
I'd want to be a pro player. It's the only job I'd really
Yeah.
want. I'd really only want to be a pro.
Jason's about to change his answer.
I just
No, I mean the pro player thing has passed me. I was never even close to it though,
Same.
just based on our upbringing.
yeah.
Clearly,
it's-
none of us were.
Yeah,
Right.
like, or else
I think that we probably any one of us here would have had what it takes to get there in terms of grind mode. I think we've covered that talking about the gaming house and gaming facility stuff, but the realism
Mhm.
of it, it's like a kid who says, I want to go to the NFL, and you say, well, how many people make it to the NFL
Yeah.
Yeah.
and stuff, and so
I didn't ask you if you thought it was possible. Just kidding.
well, he said I was going to change my answer, and so I was like,
I think
No.
I just think that like Championship Sunday being on top, just
That it,
Yeah.
there's probably very few feelings that come to that, and that's why I spend a lot of my time like I want to give people opportunities to do that, whether it's at a casual event, at a hardcore event, at a professional event, anything. I want to be able to give them the opportunity to compete that they wouldn't have had otherwise, in order to be able to chase that dream. Because I know it's like at the heart of all of us, that was one point our dream was to be a pro,
Oh, yeah.
whatever Halo player, COD player.
I still daydream about that.
Like yeah, it's just like it's just that's part of the dream. It's just like where it
we had
is.
just found our fourth. Quattro stayed 3 for a long time. But that window closed. We were like signed up on game battles. We were looking for a Halo.
geez, yeah.
That was before we knew you. Sorry.
Bummer.
Before you knew I played it, Halo.
Yeah, possibly if we're
Yeah.
Let's say you definitely knew me.
yeah. But now he's an honorary member of
It's true.
what we like to call Quattro, and we just
Even though I'm the 4th member, they still call it Quattro. But I know there's no right or wrong answers, but pro player is definitely the right answer.
Yes.
That's the right answer. like duh.
I feel like that's just assumed.
I feel
I mean,
dumb for not
we're
even
all
thinking about
competitive. I
that.
feel like we've all dreamed about that at one point.
Yeah.
well, it's almost like
Yeah.
asking someone, what's your dream car? And some kid's like, a Lamborghini Gallardo with okay, what car could you get that's a dream car? It's like
What's your
Yeah.
dream realistic car? Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Dream realistic job. in
Okay,
esports.
cool. So careers, you can do whatever job you want as long as you put your mind to it.
Facts.
Okay, next topic. So The Witcher came out on Netflix, which was a pretty successful series. I heard a lot of really great things.
I
And
don't
that
think any of us have seen it though.
no, none of us saw it, but it definitely made an
In my
impact on the
list.
fact that I heard other people talking about it to a
Yeah.
point where I was
Made it into meme culture.
Yeah, exactly. So
Oh, big
obviously, like there's a place for that. And I think that like Apex might be a cool one where it's like, something you could create in the future. But like what game would you like to be seen turn into this, TV series, and how do you think it could pull it off, and what is that, what does that look like?
Well, one's already happening. Halo is being worked on right now. I think that was the obvious. If you haven't figured
Like
out,
a movie or a TV series?
TV show
TV series
on Showtime.
Showtime.
Oh, really?
Coming out, is it this year or next year?
So Master
I
Chief,
feel like
supposed
it's
to be
early. I feel
Master
like it's
Chef
next year.
is going to be out there.
Yeah, he's played by Pablo.
Master Chef.
What's his name?
Escobar.
So they have it casted. Is
Pablo Neruda.
Is that right?
that a real answer?
Are you-
No, it's a poet.
oh,
Okay.
I was just he said Escobar. I threw out another Pablo.
Sanchez.
So, so they have it casted. I'm guessing they've started filming, or if they're still, prepping for that. But Halo on Showtime at some time.
That'd be cool.
We'll see.
I'm excited for it.
I think
that'll be
League
cool.
could be a cool TV series. I really do if they do it right, like, and create some characters, because there's so much character depth with each one of those guys already.
I don't know it enough to offer input on that.
But that's like the point, though, right? So like you make the TV series to introduce people to characters that
That's
they would
true.
connect with that they wouldn't normally.
That's what they're doing with The Witcher. People watch The Witcher
Yeah.
that have never ever played the game,
Yep.
and probably never even knew it was a game.
Yeah.
And they connected with maybe a character or some, the plot of the story or whatever. It's kind of like, it's kind of like the reverse of Batman, right? The movie came and then they're like, yo, let's make a video game, not necessarily Marvel, but like that's kind of, I'm saying like, I'm just trying to paint the picture that like you can turn any one of these into a movie, because essentially video games are just a different form of entertainment, right? So like, why can't you take that form of entertainment, Disney it or whatever you want to call it, and then turn it into a movie.
Interactive movies.
Yeah, like I loved the what was that the other Netflix one, Bandersnatch, where it was like you had different routes you could take based off the decisions you made in it. So like you'd have like 3 decisions you could make, and it would affect the rest of the way like the movie played out. And I like the idea of an interactive movie that I can influence in some way.
Elder Scrolls.
Oh, that would be,
Like Skyrim.
I really think Warcraft has tried. And
similar way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they made the movie.
They did, and it actually wasn't bad.
No, I mean,
s-
it just
you
wasn't super palatable for a
Yeah.
lot of people.
It was a little bit too, like, if they just make it a little less nerdy.
A little less World of Warcraft.
A little less
Would have made
World
that
of
movie a lot
Warcraft.
better.
It played
yeah.
to a group.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Sure,
Yeah.
definitely.
Sure.
If people had spent any time in WoW whatsoever, that movie was like, yes, like everything they've been waiting for. But I think in a lot of ways, like it underdelivered for the general population. Which, like at the end of the day, that's how you make a successful movie. Is you judge it off the like success, like generally, not towards its like specific, because there's always a target audience. Like, Frozen is obviously meant for kids, but like adults go see it too. You know what
It's
I
like
mean?
all Pixar. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So like,
Which all also
There's
become
stuff in it
video
for
games,
everyone.
by the way. They're just bad video games, but
what are you talking about?
I'm sure there's a Frozen video game. There's got to be.
Yeah, of course.
Or like a
There was
I know there's a Toy Story one.
Dude, there were
or-
SpongeBob video games back in the day for like
Jeez.
GameCube and Game Boy.
There's like step-by-step mission.
Yeah.
They tend
Go
to be
find
pretty bad though.
coins and
But it
Like a-
doesn't matter because what's the target market?
They're kids.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
So they're
Like,
like
the Finding Nemo was literally like scene for scene from the movie. You just like play out the like
Hmm.
you
That's
gotta
what Toy
like
Story
when Nemo
was.
swims to
Yeah.
the boat in Finding Nemo, like you have to swim through rings and like collect coins in order to make it to the boat. And then like you make it to the boat and it's cutscene right to the movie.
he knows this pretty well.
I played it.
Mr. Finding Nemo.
is Finding Nemo an esport?
Yes.
it's all about that
You can
Freddy
speed
fish.
run it. So yes.
Jeez. But no, Skyrim, I think Elder Scrolls, just because like that's such a like that genre already of like fantasy fiction. I mean, it's already so massive.
Yeah.
Like it would be basically like an Elder Scrolls or Skyrim like TV Netflix series would basically be Game of Thrones if everybody had like wizard powers
Sure.
Yeah.
and everybody wielded a sword.
That's right,
Like
yeah.
it would be
And
just
didn't die off the last 2 seasons.
right exactly
A better Aragon.
if everybody like Fus Rodad everybody else off the cliff. Like
Yeah.
that's exactly what it would be.
Sure.
Which I mean, who doesn't want that?
Sure.
I would watch every bit of that.
I would too. And
I
that,
think
go ahead.
I think they could make a good Grand Theft Auto movie because there's already a bunch of backstory to them. You switch between, at least in Grand Theft Auto 5, you switch between 3 different characters and they all have different storylines they're going along.
Yeah, they already did. Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, campaigns are just what we're talking about, right? Like taking a
Essentially,
campaign
yeah.
and just
The
turning.
cutscenes.
Yeah. Like, I didn't play the Call of Duty campaign, but I heard it's actually really good, and it's got some really cool cutscenes in
It's
it.
intense. I've done the first couple missions. It's really intense.
Yeah.
I
Like
need to.
Sucks you in
Yeah.
like immediately. You're like, oh,
Whoa.
okay, this is happening. Yeah.
So, like, in a lot of ways, what we're talking about has already happened, I guess.
That's
Just
true.
in a different medium.
Yeah.
I guess so. Like, what like single player campaign would make the best movie or series?
And it's on that interactive platform you were talking about. You can kind of not really control the campaign follows one linear story.
That'd be actually crazy if, like, your campaign, depending on maybe the decisions you made, it was kind of like Fable. You guys heard of Fable?
Yeah.
Like, the way the game played kind of changed based off of how you were more evil or more good or whatever.
Mhm.
That concept, I think, is really
Or
dope.
like Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah. Because you could
Yeah.
be.
And like as you made decisions, it made you either lighter side of the Force or darker side of the Force, and you had like that, moving bar.
The Sith.
Unlimited power.
Um.
So aside from Star Wars, obviously those TV shows and done. Didn't you have a good one for this?
Yeah. What
For
do you
the,
What do you want to see?
I mean, Apex or Halo.
Apex.
I feel like
Aside
Apex
from
is an
Halo.
obvious one too. I think they've already kind of started that, and I want them to go with it
Yeah.
because they've lined it up so perfectly leading up to season.
Is there
4.
a campaign in Apex?
Nope.
It's
No.
all multiplayer. Okay. Yeah. So it's
Just
I just think
lore.
there's so
Lot of
much
lore.
potential.
lore.
There's so much potential within their lore, how they're setting up each character's backstory. I mean, the day they dropped the game, they had backstories on every single character.
Yeah.
So it's like, why not take something like that?
They're
And,
probably
like-
gonna make a comic too. It's
Yeah.
exactly what Overwatch did. Overwatch made the game, came out with backstories. They had their little mini shorts.
Yeah.
I'm going to just talk about Overwatch every podcast. Can I just do that? Can we start a tally?
Some
But
people
they-
just been drinking the Kool-Aid.
They did the lore. They released all these little mini movies, and they made a comic. Apex could do the exact same thing and
Yeah.
like just make a comic and like expand off the lore.
I
And
want
like,
to see a Rocket League TV show.
how would you?
It would have to be included in like
It's called Cars.
Disney did Tron.
Cars.
Disney did Tron twice.
You did what in a cup?
The Piston Cup.
The Piston Cup. You did what in a cup?
Rocket League could be an event that someone is going to in another movie. We're gonna go see the Rocket League matches and like because they're arenas, right?
That's what I want VR for. I want to put on my headset and be in the stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So someone in whatever futuristic, you know, looking city, and it's like the Rocket League arena's
Ooh.
over there. The Apex arena is over there.
Whoa! Wow, that would
So
be
we should stop
crazy.
recording so we can trademark this right now.
Yes.
Because they're called the Apex games, and they
Write
have
it
stories of how
down.
they made it to the Apex games. So there's a world outside of what's going on there. So it's like, you want to go to the
That's
Rocket League
basically
match
what-
tonight?
That's what World of Warcraft is trying to do with like Hearthstone and Warcraft 3. So
Huh.
like you'd come in the tavern and you'd play Hearthstone in the World of Warcraft.
Okay. Huh.
Well, yeah. So like the concept has been tried before,
The
but
Witcher
it's-
did that too.
Oh, did
With
they?
their card game Gwent. You go into a tavern and you play Gwent.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Apparently, this is like an unoriginal idea, but I think it's dope.
It's a cool idea.
So it sounds like just we're on Coruscant. You can go see a Rocket League match.
Yeah.
You can go watch the gladiatorial Apex games.
Yeah. You know what's really sad
Trifecta
about all
game.
this? I think the first person to do it really well after like the World of Warcraft is going to be Fortnite. I really think Fortnite is moving to this very like world open thing where there's a lot of different games inside of it, and I think that's the model they're going to go to. Which makes me so sad just because I have such a despise for Fortnite. I just hate it so much.
And it's not even really the game at its core, its fault.
Yeah.
Right? It's the community. It's the
Yeah.
we talked about this with Epic Games, the path that the devs decided to go in terms of who they were going to appeal to.
Yeah.
Because just looking back at clips from Fortnite seasons 1 through 4 or 5, it was good. And it was fun.
I loved it. Yeah.
And then planes.
I say we
and
played a lot of it.
snowboards and, you know, mechs and stuff coming. You know, SpongeBob mean, all right, I'm going to head out. No more
that's what-
Fortnite.
That's what I'm hoping Apex doesn't mess up because they've taken good steps so
I mean,
far. I hope
they've
they
been-
don't try to do too much.
Ever since that game dropped, it got more hype than it should have in the beginning in a
Yeah.
lot of ways, and then has grown ever since. So
Yeah.
it's like,
The mechs are coming.
to
To
Titanfall.
Apex.
Yeah.
Titanfall.
I mean,
There are
it's-
going to
it's
be
gonna have to.
there
at
are
some
going
point.
to be Titans at some point in that game. At some point.
gross.
And I'm here for it.
Gross.
No.
We'll see.
I'm
Okay.
here for it.
So, what childhood game do you want to see remade and turned into something like you think that could like be like 2020'd? The game you played in 2005 being 2020'd.
NFL Street 2.
Dude, I loved it.
We were just talking
We were talking about
What
this
is
last
NFL
night.
Street?
That's
NFL
what I was
Street
gonna
2.
say.
You never played
Well,
NFL Street?
Is that like NFL Blitz? What is it?
No. Did you ever play NBA Street?
No.
Oh
Oh,
my gosh.
man.
What kind of gamer
LAN
are you?
party.
Dude, so it's
He
like
is there, how can I get my 50 in NFL
can I
Street
get my
2?
50? I was
you-
playing World of Warcraft then, okay? Leave me
did you
alone.
ever play like any of the EA big games?
No.
Like SSX
Did
Tricky?
you play sports games?
I played Tony
Oh
Hawk
my
Skateboarder.
gosh. Okay,
NFL
so
Street 2.
NFL Street, it was like you like picked a team and like built a player or whatever, and like you played through like a campaign. It was like 4v4, like 5v5 or 3v3 football on like a super short field.
Okay.
But like there were no rules.
I do remember this game.
Like you could run
yes.
off walls, jump off walls, like do spin moves, and like you could literally like 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 check people over. Like there were no penalties, no
Yeah.
nothing. Like
There were some actual NFL players incorporated into the game.
no, like most of the players
Yeah.
are NFL players.
Cool. Yeah.
And like you could
you
like
could create your own
you,
player.
yeah, you create your own
It was
player.
probably
and you
pretty
join a
choppy for the
team.
time. So
Oh,
you
I mean,
could
it was
remake
original
that.
Xbox, so I mean, it wasn't
Yeah.
a lot. But like you beat it, you beat a team, and like you can go recruit a player from that team,
Yeah.
and then like all like at the end of like a certain series, like in a certain town, you'd play like a legend, and then like you could recruit that legend. So like all of a sudden now like
Eric
like,
Dickerson.
Yeah, Eric Dickerson. Oh, dude, I played so
Yep.
much with Eric Dickerson. You
I
could
was
like
ready.
recruit Eric Dickerson. He was like one of the best wide receivers in the game.
Running
And then
back.
like then you could go get like Drew Brees or like Donovan McNabb or like all these other people. And they made 3 of them. They did the same thing with like NBA, so like NBA Street.
If they
was so
remaster that, that's all I'm ever gonna
Oh,
play.
dude, it'd be
that
so
game was
sick.
incredible.
It'd be so sick.
We were on there with a friend of ours. We each made a character and filled it with some NFL players too. And you could like, you could build your character based on achievements you got. It's like you need to get 3 sacks in a game or get 2 picks or do whatever and win and stuff like that. And you got like, just your basic
Skill points.
basic skill point model that you could add to speed, agility, jumping, throwing, whatever.
Yeah.
Catching, yeah.
Oh my!
Forget Madden, dude.
And they
Like,
had small-
that's
they
the
had
premier football game.
They had small game modes in there like jump ball.
Yep.
Like you literally
Oh
played
my
like it was like playing
gosh.
jackpot.
Jackpot. Yep.
It's like 500,
yeah.
and you go and 3 guys would go run for it and jump ball.
I'm so happy to know
You
that we
had-
all had the same childhood.
You had to be Randy Moss in that.
Or Eric Dickerson.
Eric Dickerson was a running back.
Who am I thinking of?
Jerry
Eric Decker?
Rice.
No,
Uh.
because there was like you could pick like
Wow.
running backs and safeties, unless it was like I played like Street 3 or something. But you could pick like running backs and safeties for it.
Yeah, I mean you could.
What
you could-
game did this year? What year did this game come
Oh,
out?
dude, like 03, 02.
So I was
I'll figure it out real quick.
13.
NFL Street 2 is 2004. I'm
I
pretty
was
sure.
playing like Diablo,
Corey Dillon was
Diablo
on there for the
3.
Patriots, running back.
Diablo 2, and Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto 3.
I actually need to play. Admitting here, I haven't played any of the other GTA's except 5.
I mean, they were good, but
2006.
NFL Street 2,
Yeah.
2004.
Ah, I was right.
December 22nd, 2004.
what was I playing when I was 14? I don't even remember, dude.
Dude, I was 10.
I was definitely playing WoW. I was probably addicted to WoW at that point.
I was
I was like
playing Halo 1 and 2 and NFL
Yeah.
Street.
Same.
Yeah, I was playing Halo 1, 2, and then WoW.
Super Mario Sunshine would be awesome as a remaster.
Huh.
Honestly, the GameCube generation would be
Ratchet and
freaking
Clank.
phenomenal.
That's true.
Dude, well, they did that already.
Yeah, but again.
2 years later, do it again.
And then didn't they? We talked about Spyro the other day.
Yeah.
Oh, Spyro.
they did.
Original
They did.
Spyro
They
on
already did
PlayStation. Right, they did. But
Yeah.
Blake
times.
and I grew up as those kids who weren't ever allowed to have a console, and we discovered all these games at other people's houses.
Yeah. So you go over to your buddy's house and
Yep.
try it, and they're
So
like,
we
"Yo, have
played-
the Xbox."
Jack
Kevin
and
Chow,
Daxter.
Kevin Chow, shout out. That's where we Halos 1, 2,
Kevin.
NFL Street.
A legend, Chun Chow Chicken.
What about Tony Hawk Pro Skater?
That's the one I played.
Yeah.
We touched it. from
So
time to
I would
time.
put the hacks in, and I would like put myself on like a crazy multiple grind, and then I would come back home from school, and it would be like a million points, and I'd be like, "This is what greatness is right here."
No, I'm saying as a remaster, Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
would be dope too.
Dude, those would be sick.
So speaking of XP grinding while you're
I know
away,
what you're gonna say.
you've met David. Halo
Yeah.
Reach, at a part in the campaign, you could get credits through the campaign
Shout out Cardinal Sin.
from
Hey.
getting kills and checkpoints and stuff like that. This this man taped his controller to hold in a forward and like melee or a shoot position, and he got it right at the checkpoint to where he would shoot a grunt and it would get a headshot, and you get like 10 credits for that. And the holding forward would walk off a cliff that's right there, and so he'd respawn.
Reset the checkpoint, and then
And-
he would just do it again.
And he just
Left
taped
it
his-
there all day.
and his controller was wired, so he was
Yeah.
not worried about batteries, and just left his Xbox on, turned his TV off, and went to school, church, work. Came back, 150,000 credits, and I'm gonna buy my Recon Pestilence effect for my helmet.
Oh,
I
that's
was like,
awesome.
Did anybody ever play
You're
the
a nerd.
Pokemon games on Game Boy?
Yeah, I had the Game Shark too.
So you had the Game Shark?
Yeah, dude, I cheated. It actually sucked because the Game Shark would give you
He's
one level
cheater.
999, and then after you killed the first thing with it, it would knock you down to 99.
Weird.
Yeah, I didn't like that, but I mean, I could get to free characters, so that was cool.
But they had the daycare in Pokemon games,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so you leave a Pokemon in the daycare,
And
and
you
every
get-
step you took counted as one experience point. But you
Oh.
needed like 20,000 at X level. Then it was like 22,000, 24,000 for each level. And so in the third generation games, you could get the bike. And so what I would do is I would go put a Pokemon in the daycare, and then you have a bike, right? And then there were these mudslides that you could like go that you could go up really, really fast, but you could only go back down them, and you couldn't walk up them. And so you either had to be going at full speed, like built up for like a couple pixels in order to get up it. But what I did is I took a rubber band and I put like a rock. I went outside and grabbed a rock, put it on walked myself up to the mudslide. And so if you tried to walk up it from right underneath it, it would just go up one and go back down. But that counted as 2 steps because every pixel you move counts as 1 step.
Gotcha.
So it's up one, down one, up one, down one.
As long as you don't
and
battle
so
Pokemon.
you could sit there and hold up, and it'll just go up and down, up and down, up and down, over and over and over again. And so I would put a level 1 Pokemon in the daycare that I'm trying to grind, tape with the rubber band the rock on the forward button, leave it on all night long under my pillow or something, or like next to my bed. Wake up the next day, go get the Pokemon out of the daycare. It was like level 87. I did that with so many Pokemon.
That's
esports
awesome.
esports hacks.
Well, I mean, yeah. If you're not cheating, you're not trying, right?
True.
Go
Astros.
Go Astros.
Oh, wait. What, did they cheat?
Yeah.
What'd they do?
They did a lot.
They
People
would-
have gotten
There
fired.
was- they were stealing pitch signs,
Oh, were they?
and if you
Not that
heard
hard to do.
it was an off-speed
Okay,
pitch.
so there's nothing wrong with stealing pitch signs. All
Right.
teams do it. They use technology to do it. And then they would, at home games, they would like use signals and noises from the back and like buzzers on like people's chests and stuff to like let them know when it was like an off-speed pitch. And if like you look at the splits between like, and I'm an Astros fan, so this is like really
He's
shitty
wearing
for
the
me.
hat. That's
Wearing
why
the
we
hat.
said it.
Represent. I'm not a fake fan.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, you can see it. Yeah, cheaters right there. But yeah. So then like, if you look at their splits between like their home batting percentage versus their away, it's like ridiculous.
Especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's not
It's
even
like
close.
way.
It's not even close.
It sucks because like I didn't have a problem with the Astros, so I wish they hadn't have done it. But
Mm-hmm.
But
I remember
something
seeing
not
the
as-
article about them cheating. That's
Yeah.
that's all I knew. So
So back to things that aren't depressing for 25% of the room. Yeah, I think any Mario game would be awesome as a reboot. Just because any platformer, like if you take platformers and reboot them and just give them, better responses and graphics and stuff, like the Crash Bandicoot games.
or better stories too, because
Right,
some of them
yeah,
had
yeah.
really bad stories, but they were still like
Yeah.
nostalgic games that were like around for the time kind of thing.
Right.
If
And
you-
that's why like the Ratchet and Clank or like Spyro, like those platformer like reboots would be awesome. The
Yeah.
Mario games, same thing.
if you made Mario,
Kong Racing,
if you made Mario look like one of those modern scroll games like Ori and the Blind
Yeah.
Forest, or
Oh my god, dude.
or
Oh.
I keep bringing it up, Max Curse of the Brotherhood, man, on Game Pass, it's wild.
Hmm.
But if you made it look like
Still,
that,
The new Ori is out, by the way. Will o' the Wisp.
I need to get into that
Yeah,
now that I finished.
because it's a
Max.
Microsoft game.
Okay.
Yeah, I downloaded it on my PC. I haven't played it yet, but I want to play it. It looks awesome.
But if Mario looked like that and added, like you guys said, added a little story, some cutscenes or something like that,
Dude, it'd be
Yeah.
incredible.
maybe it wouldn't.
people would be all over it.
Would be dope.
I mean, that's why they keep making Smash games. It's just the same game over again with better graphics, better engine. Keeps selling.
Yeah.
They did the same thing with Mario, just reboot it all these years later. Another Mario platform.
And Mario's like a really like valuable IP. It's almost like Mickey Mouse.
It's
in some
probably
ways.
the most valuable individual gaming IP.
Well, I would imagine. Well, I guess Mickey Mouse is not a
Well,
gaming IP, but I
Right, in
think that
gaming, I think he's right.
Mario is
probably
the
true.
most valuable, for sure.
Not Master Chief.
See, this is why you got to be a dev. The dev that created Mario.
Yeah.
There you go. It's it right there. Cool. Well, do you guys want to wrap it up?
Let's do it.
Sweet. I really liked the conversation. I think we had a great time. I hope you had a great time, viewer/listener, and thank you for making it to the end of our video. Make sure you tune into the next episode of The Rising Phoenix and
Phoenix Rising.
Phoenix
Episode 3.
Rising. I always mix it up. Goodness gracious. Okay.
It'll
cool.
work.
I mean, I've
So-
known you for 9 months. You still don't know how to spell my name, so it's not surprising.
Gray.
Hey, there you go. Oh my God.
Hey.
First time. I'm so proud of you.
Have a great one. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Fade out.